right, we are live. Welcome, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me make sure all settings are good. All right, perfect. Looks like everything is working. Happy Sunday. As always, thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to watch the show. Of course, today we'll be covering Sebastian Rogers. Coming up this week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have Jennifer Coffindaffer on the show. I'm putting a big show together. Obviously not like a long show, but I'm going to try to get as much stuff in as I can. And I'll do a members live after this, and I'll kind of explain a little bit more about what I'm putting together. But there's a lot of questions I would love to, ask her. I think there's some questions that no one has had a chance to ask her, and I'm sure she would have some insight on that. And anyway, really excited. And I'm going to put out a post and see if we can get some questions from you guys that if you had a chance to ask her some questions, and we'll try to snag a few from the community as well. All right. Usually I feature a missing person at the beginning, but I just didn't get a chance because I was on some phone calls and just kind of didn't had too many things going on. So we're just going to get right into it, guys. As always, thank you so much. And if you can, please hit that like button. Spread the awareness for Sebastian Rogers. Missing now almost, we're at just about 11 months. I can't believe it. Next thing you know, the anniversary is just around the corner. And, this poor kid needs justice. So, and to be found. So with that said, let me just quickly play a 1-minute recap for you guys. Just make sure the stream is going well. And then we'll get into today's topics. And, got an exciting show for you.
We're going to turn down. I was going to be wearing a black sweatshirt, black sweatpants. There's nothing kind of autism. This is the first time it happened. I'm going to be in the home before midnight. All the doors are locked at this time.
Informer.
Sebastian Rogers is a 15-year-old autistic teenager who lives in Hendersonville, Tennessee. He was last seen Sunday night on February 25th by his mother, Katie Proudfoot. The next morning, on the 26th, his mother went to wake Rogers up and get him ready for school, but Rogers was nowhere to be seen. Sebastian Rogers was allegedly wearing a black sweatshirt, black sweatpants, his glasses, and his keychain flashlight.
If you're looking at my house,
Okay.
it's going to be the right-hand side. The dog
right.
goes all the way down the fence. The dog comes all the way back up into the yard, and then it cuts that.
While I get this set up, we'll just listen to.
Through their backyard.
I'm just going to play this for a second to allow people to come in, and then we're going to get right into what I got prepared. I had some requests to talk about the Ruckus video, and usually since I've already done that, but I have been asked, I will touch on that because it actually kind of helps explain some things about the lights. So that's why I thought, you know what, I will go over that again. Again, everything that I'm sharing is just my opinion. I encourage everybody to do their own research, but I will say, just from kind of experience I have, I've worked in editing for almost 2 decades. I skateboarded for like 12 years, and all we did was film. We filmed during the day, during the night, at all hours. And then what I would do is then I would work and put videos together of us skateboarding, because that was our thing, when we were young teenagers. And again, I've never took any college courses or anything like that, but I have worked on video editing ever since I had a computer. It's something I've always been fascinated with. Anyway, just to give you a little background if you're kind of newer to the show. So here's Chris explaining the dogs. There's a lot of controversy between, did they actually get a scent? And there's some that claim, yes, there was a scent, but then law enforcement came out and said, no, they were false positives. So, what is it? Could it be something in between? And then, there's a conversation that was shared with Chris Proudfoot talking about, what he claims happened with these dogs. And anyway, I think the truth is somewhere in between. That's just my opinion, of course. But the reason why I find it very fascinating is because of where the dogs originally started from and the direction they went, because it lines up with other things, and you start just kind of stacking on things that all kind of line up in that same area, which is, around in this backyard. So let me play this for a second, and then we'll get to the ruckus, and then we're going to get the timeline of the cars and much more.
And that is the direction which the dogs take off. Now, after that,
thank you, Melissa. Good to see you.
Main road, go up Kellen, and head over to the other subdivision.
Okay.
I mean,
how many? Yeah, a lot of dogs.
But day one, there was 5 dogs.
Rosa, thank you so much for becoming a member. God bless you.
A blue healer, 2 bloodhounds, and a blue cake. In the 8 days of the aquarium pen searching, in the 8 days, on day 1, the 5 dogs did that. Out of the 8 days, 3 different dogs from 3 different groups went to that same area in that same set. On day 1, 2 of those dogs did the same path.
Okay.
So here, from what I've listened to this so many times just to make sure that I'm not getting, but the main word is diagonally from the backyard. And I've kind of talked about this in previous lives, but there's only one diagonally way you can go, because if you went diagonally the other way, it wouldn't make sense because you're going to run into fences. And so really there's only a couple of ways it could go, and this is the one that obviously makes sense. And it kind of lines up with the house that's next door to him, where it's not lined parallel to their house. It's actually, since it's kind of on a corner, the house is more diagonally compared to the Proudfoot's home. So it all lines up. So again, where I have the yellow line here is my point of interest. And even although allegedly a few dogs then cut up Kellen, the other thing that to kind of make a point is he did say that there was a few other dogs that, from what I understand, and I could be misquoting or misinterpreting what he's saying, but it sounds like they did kind of the same thing diagonally, but instead of going up Kellen, they went down Kellen. So with that,
and I'm pretty sure that was the bloodhound and the blue team. From what I was told, that's why I was like, well, there we go, folks. That's why.
And then, of course, I pointed this out before. I thought that's a very interesting statement. There we go, folks, as in, like, there's your answer. There's where he went. But now knowing that obviously there's tons of cameras on this road, and I'll show you guys some of them. But what I show is probably only a quarter of the cameras that they had on Stafford and Kellen. There was just about nearly every other house had more, if not one or more cameras. So just keep that in mind. Yet none of them, as far as we know, have caught Sebastian walking that night. So clearly, that kind of gives you a clue as to, did he really wander off, or did something else happen? Alley Cat, thank you so much for becoming a member and supporting this channel. God bless you.
Out of all the dogs, there was at least 3 consistent hits that do that.
Right.
Do that.
Right. And then what are the strongest pack? Yeah, the strongest, most recent scent.
And there was a couple dogs, like one dog went over.
So I've heard from, because one of the dog owners that was out there has said that they did walk that path or something like that. I mean, I cannot confirm that 100% because I don't know that person, but they have strongly implied that they were out there and that their dog did track to what he's saying. Again, yeah, is he telling the truth? Who knows? Of course, we've caught him in many lies in interviews, so yeah, I could see where people would be skeptical about what Chris is saying.
Long haul fight, and got there and he lost his head.
But then here it's a little bit harder to say because there's stuff going in the background. But he says instead of one of the dogs, going diagonally and cutting up, the other one goes down to Long Hollow Pike, which is at the bottom of the street. That meets Kellen, which is the one-way in. But the point is the diagonal, and then the fact that if by chance this is true, and we have some dogs going up, and even though maybe we have more dogs that go up Kellen, maybe we have a few that go down, or some kind of different direction. It's almost, is this the point where they really lost the scent, and then the dog's just trying to pick up the scent? Again, I'm not a dog handler, I'm not an expert in that, but the other point to make out is, we've seen in other cases where if the dog is following a scent and then all of a sudden that scent drops out of nowhere, especially if it's near a road, then, that kind of suggests that it's a possibility that that person that they were tracking got into a vehicle. So that's the other point.
The rest of the dogs all pick up scent, but then they go in all different places that they live. Dogs all pick up scent, but then they go in all different places.
Strongest, most recent scent.
Okay, moving on. So.
Okay.
And then, again, in my previous videos, but we're going to skip along, but of course, where I have that yellow line where the dogs had allegedly tracked, what are the odds? This is where you're just kind of building on the evidence that we know, or potential evidence. We have the lights moving in that kind of general direction. So, again, you just kind of tack on these
diagonally to the house.
These possible clues, and they're all kind of around this area, and they're all, especially with the dogs and the lights, they're almost following the same trajectory. Now, is that just a pure coincidence? And from speaking with former law enforcement, they don't believe in coincidences when it comes to, a potential criminal investigation, right?
Next door to us through their backyard, and that is the direction which the dogs take off. Now, after that, that's where they get over to the main road, go up Kellen, and head over to the other subdivision.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. I got it set for 11:12.
Right.
Let's move over to house. Because exactly create this. Okay.
And that is the direction which the dogs take off.
Now again, I just kind of reinforcing the. Before that, I play an interview where Nick Barris, says where these lights are coming from, and we've kind of gone over that. So before we get into the main part of the show, I had been requested a couple times, and actually I'm kind of glad to kind of go over this because this kind of explain the distances between stuff, right? So I'm sure a lot of you, if you followed this case, especially from the beginning, there was, as far as what I know, is what's called the Ruckus video. And basically they zoomed in on this floodlight. In my opinion, this is a floodlight. And they claim that they believe that this is kind of like people like moving around, and like there's a head. You can like make out shapes like somebody's head here and here, right? And of course, to me, this is kind of a case of pareidolia. If anybody doesn't know what that is, think of the face on Mars, where it looks like a human face on Mars from one of the shots from one of the satellites or whatever. Not satellites, but, well, yeah, I guess it would be a satellite. But then again, when they showed, like, I think they flew over Mars again with another satellite, and of course then it showed, that same area, but from just a slightly different angle, and then you could tell it's just kind of I don't know if it's a crater, but anyway, from one shot, it does look like a face, and that's, us as just humans, we are toned to look at, see patterns in things, right? So anyway, so I do understand this, and it does kind of look like there's a head, and there's like two people kind of like, like, I don't know, like moving around, right? But what's really going on, and then I'll explain the distance too, and how, again, it's not that I want to debunk this or anything, but just looking at it logically and just from my experience, you got to remember how far these lights are, right? They're somewhere 100 feet away, right? So the truck we know is in the driveway, right? The truck is much closer to the camera. These floodlights are at least 100 feet away. I could probably pull up Google Earth and give you a better measurement. But so again, I'm just kind of showing his head, like that's kind of how they were showing it, right? And it does, because you kind of see the lights and they're kind of like trickling around, so it almost adds to like there's like movement. But what's going on, because there's like multiple things going on, but the main thing is because, and I explained it before, is because somebody's recording with their phone, right? And so the light, even though it looks like it's kind of like got some movement to it, it's because one, the phone is kind of shaking, right? Because they're trying to record it on their phone. And two, it's kind of coming in and out with the lights, trying to pick up the sources of light. So, and we see that not just with these lights, but with when the vehicle comes on, we kind of see like lights kind of come in and out. And it's that same thing. It's because at some points it's picking up that light, and others it's not. So it's just kind of constantly giving the impression that there's like this movement. And don't forget, we do have trees as well that are near that area that could be kind of causing that. But again, just to give you a reference, to be able to block that, because remember, they're floodlights and they're over the garage, the only way for someone to actually be causing that much kind of like people, they would have to be like 10 feet tall, because think they're floodlights and they're above the garage what's like 8-9 feet, and then the floodlights would be somewhere around 10 feet. I don't know, some just ballparking it, right? So to be able to like block those would mean that those people would be like giants, if that makes sense. Let me know. But this does, so here's another example. So because this is why I kind of wanted to include the Ruckus, because this is a perfect example. So here's that screenshot that SF released of the Uber driver, and I've learned more stuff. This is why I'm really excited to go live. We have learned more stuff about this vehicle, and we may have a potential lead on the other one. So really excited. So let's take this for example, right? So we have this guy in the driveway, right? This is the Uber driver, and we'll kind of explain some things that kind of relay that this is likely the Uber driver just getting the trunk ready. But let's say, let me back this up real quick before I show it. So obviously the driveway across the street, it is, so from the camera to the road, if I remember, it's about 45 feet. So then if we doubled that, that's about 100 feet to these lights back here, right? At the very least, about 100 feet, right? So if I were to literally just copy and paste this guy over to across the street, which would now be somewhere between 90 to 100 feet away, let me know in the chat. Do you think he's going to be the same size? Do you think he's going to be bigger? Or do you think he's going to be much smaller? And I know you guys are smart. I'm sure you guys will put the answer in the question. But is it 1, 2, or 3? Would it be the same size, bigger, or smaller? And again, this is not being condescending, because this is just kind of showing everything together. Remember, I've got a delay, so with your chat, I have to kind of wait for responses, but I'm pretty sure you guys know the answer. Smaller. Yeah, he's going to be much smaller. The further, obviously, anything as they move away from the camera, they're going to get smaller, right? So So obviously the guy's going to be much smaller, probably even smaller than what I have here, but about that size, right? So you got to think that, you know, somebody to be blocking these floodlights would have to be very, you know, 8 to 10 feet tall, right? So, I mean, you guys know. So, and then this is a perfect example. If you were just to darken everything, right, and we just kind of saw this car, and then we saw the two floodlights, and then we just kind of had like a video going, and the lights are kind of trickling in and out, you know, again, that person would be very big to be able to obscure that light. The only other thing that would make sense to be able to actually obscure the floodlight is if you had a different light source, right? Let's say if you had a big spotlight and you're standing in the yard and your shadow casted up onto the floodlight, then maybe you could create, you know, because obviously, you know, with shadows, you can cast big shadows depending on the light source and where it's at, if it's lower to the ground, depending on how close it is, how far it is. That's why shadows, like when you're trying to like fabricate or add, you know, people into, when you're doing like photoshopping and stuff like that, you know, you have to shadows to work about, you know, to worry about, and all these different variables. So anyway, I'm sure you guys are getting the point that it would be giants if they were actually, you know, doing that. So again, here's just me showing an example, because really this is kind of the same scenario, where this is about 180 to 100 feet away, somewhere in about the same range as this, from this camera to those floodlights. And again, those floodlights would obviously be on above the garage, you know, unless it's like shack, you know, or I'm trying to think some centers for NBA. They're like 8-9 feet tall. I don't think they would be causing that. What I think is really causing that is that it's the camera trying to focus on the lights, and they're kind of fading in and out, right? All right, moving on. Saw something in there. Sorry, guys. Looking at you. Chat. Criminal mad, smaller way, bigger, closer. Yep. I mean, you guys are smart. Now, obviously, it makes for a great video because, you know, when you zoom it in, you could kind of make the heads, like, make it look like they're heads. And there's like two people, like, kind of like, I don't know, arguing, or they're real close. And again, it just comes down to, in my opinion, pareidolia. And again, here is the distance from the floodlights to the camera. And I think, I mean, I could do the distance. I know it's at least 100 feet around in there. It's 20 feet. That's 50 feet. So that's 50 feet. 50 feet. 50 feet. Oh, you can't see it when I'm doing on camera. Yeah, it's actually over. It's almost about 150 feet, actually. So you can see in the bottom, it's small. I apologize if you're on the phone. You can see it says feet. If I back it out, that's 50 feet. It has a little line right here, right? And so that would be about 50 feet. About here, that would be another 50 feet, so it's 100. So that's about 150 feet, actually. I thought it was a little bit less. I knew it was over 100 feet, but yeah, so clearly there's just no way, just in my opinion, that that's people, you know, doing whatever. Here's satellite imagery that was released by At Night, and I know that there's certain channels that want to debunk that this is actually satellite imagery, and they claim that they're just taking Google images. But I promise you, if you go on Google and do a side-by-side comparison, I promise you the quality is much worse on Google, because this is actual them going to private companies that have satellites and getting, obviously they can't just get any time or day, because it just kind of depends on where the satellites are going, right? And especially that specific company that may be providing the satellite imagery. That's why I noticed, if you notice, the satellite imagery is February 23rd, because that might be the only day maybe that week. Or I don't know exactly how much it flies over the same area. I know it's 90 minutes to orbit, right? So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there, that what you're looking at is satellite imagery from a private source. It's not Google. Google would look much worse. Not much worse, but it's glaringly obvious between the Google satellite and the private. Okay, so now, and then here's just another example, and then we'll move on here, is, where the floodlights would be. Now, obviously, it would be fall, so we wouldn't have all these trees. And I think also what could be maybe distorting it is if you had even just a slight little bit of wind. It could be moving a branch that could be maybe causing, this distortion. But look at the truck. See how the truck, notice how lights are kind of coming in and out of the truck? You see that right here? It's all because the camera lens is trying to pick up light sources. And when they're not very vibrant and the contrast is not very good, it's going to kind of come in and out of focus. So notice, it looks like there's a bunch of action right here. Like even now, the same thing. Look at this truck. Look how the lights are always kind of, doing stuff. And that's all because, the recording on their phone and the lens is trying to, it's just like when you're trying to zoom in, like people that are trying to zoom in on these orbs and drones, and, it kind of goes in and out of focus and stuff. It's basically kind of the same concept as what's going on here, right? Shelly, from what I understand, yeah, that was confirmed like a long time ago. And we'll talk about the Uber driver. We will definitely be talking about that. So let's put these all in order. Let me get the chat. Oh, we got a couple goals. I meant to extend the goal out. It's not necessary. Again, it's rare that I, ask for support. It does obviously help this channel. Obviously YouTube is my main source of income. I do try to put out product that is, obviously, technically under entertainment, but, I'm trying to do it under educational and trying to help. And of course, we don't only cover true crime, but we do go out and help search the missing. Just right now, it's wintertime. Kathy says, thank you for all your hard work. You are appreciated. Thank you so much, Kathy. You guys are such an amazing community. And Jay's gifting another Mob Crew membership. That's so sweet. God bless you. Always gifting memberships. That's so awesome. Lori, Short Legs. I love that last name. I can't believe no one found him yet. I know. I can't believe we're almost at 11 months. It's crazy. Lisa says, White House is behind PF House Uber photo. I know what you're saying. We'll look at that. I think because the house is up here, and I could show you. I don't think that's correct. Actually, I'm like 90% sure that it's actually the house up here. And I know that through the source. So we go to 2:58 a.m., right? And we have a suspicious vehicle, the vehicle that in my opinion, until it is 100% cleared, in my opinion, if he didn't run away, right? which obviously, and I'll in a minute I'll show some of the cameras, but it's only a quarter of how many cameras. Like I said earlier, there were so many cameras in this neighborhood. It would shock you, and yet not a single one captured him. So if he didn't wander off on his own, the really only option two is that he was taken away, and obviously what would you use to take him away with, unless you carried him off, but I highly doubt someone would be ballsy enough to just, abduct a kid and walk down the street. So that means he likely was taken by vehicle. Now, between this, 12 a.m., 6 a.m., well, we'll say like 12 to 5 a.m., there's only going to be so many cars that have traveled during that night. And as far as we know, it was 2. And even SF has said this. He said that there was 2 cars at 3 a.m. Now, technically, one was at 2:58, or you could just round it off to 3 a.m., and then we have the 3:30. But let's start out with the 2:58 one. So, what we heard, even way back many, 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 many months ago, we heard that a car came up, a suspicious car that has not been identified, came up Killen at around 3 a.m., and here it is being confirmed by SF. And if you didn't catch my show Friday, I went over, all the stuff that if he made this up, I would have been on his ass, guaranteed. If he puts anything else that's fabricated, you believe me, I will be the first person to, debunk it and throw it back in his face. Guaranteed. But I have checked this out every different way that I can. This is real. 2:58, he, of course, only shows a screenshot of the car and suspiciously, puts a black box over it, right? Which makes no sense because even if he didn't have the black box, you still wouldn't be able to identify the vehicle, right? Maybe you might be able to make the make and model, or at least the make. But you're certainly not going to know like the driver or license plate or anything like that, obviously. So there's no way to dox this person, right? So we heard then the car turns around, and I think this was done on purpose. One, to kind of scout, because I believe, in my opinion, until this is cleared, this is the car, in my opinion, that was likely involved in the abduction. And that's just my opinion, of course. But let's think about the actions of what we know this car did. We heard that this car had allegedly stopped, before it turned on to Stafford, it stopped on Killen, which I find interesting. Now, we can't back that up. It's just been rumored, but although the sources that have talked about it, they were 100%, I would say 95% right on the Uber driver. Of course, they were just kind of off on the timing. But from speaking with multiple locals, and many of them that had seen camera footage of this car, believed that it did what they believe stopped at some point around Killen. Now, again, this could be wrong, but we know the second part is going to be right. But, so coincidentally, let's just look at this, right? So this is where it's speculated that it stopped for a minute. Possibly let somebody out, right? Maybe 1 or 2 people. Now, for reference, the house behind this house where the bushes are, that is Sebastian's home. See where all the trees are at, because they have that backyard that's fenced off, and they have the trees, right? And then remember I showed you guys that they had that 3D scanner that was going on in the backyard. And then let's just see, what do we notice right here? Now again, this may be nothing, but notice how this house is now blurred out. Is that coincidence, or could there be something more to it? And during my members live, we'll go a little bit more into that, because I try to be very careful about speculating too much as far as like people. We still try to stick with the facts, but I just want to say that there could be a connection, maybe not, but just keep that in mind. But this picture was taken between their backyard and Sebastian's backyard, so just keep that in mind. Oh, thank you so much. That's very sweet of you. So now, if we kind of deduce that the car, if, what was speculated, and obviously it's kind of corroborated because we have a screenshot of it going up killing at 258. So if it did just go up killing and then turned around at after 258, we would expect the time to be around 2:59, 3 a.m. as it came back down killing, right? Now, let's just think about the behavior of this car that we know. It turns onto Stafford after allegedly stopping at Killen for a minute. And then, of course, it turns on to Stafford. Now, I find this very interesting because if this was a car that did not belong to the neighborhood, which means there's no connection to, like, a boyfriend picking up their girlfriend like a certain SF was, talking about, which makes no sense because even the neighbors are like, there's not a lot of teenagers. And what would they be doing at 3 o'clock in the morning when there's school, right? So that whole baloney story he put out is ridiculous. But if you think about it, and this was, say, an allegedly abduction, and this car is involved, you probably wouldn't want to be, for one, you probably wouldn't want to be on this road because remember, there's only one way in, one way in, and one way out. At least back then, because remember now they're kind of cutting in this second neighborhood, so but technically at that time there's basically one way in, one way out. And so here's the point of view. Let's say it let out one or more persons to potentially go to the backyard, because obviously that would be a straight shot. And maybe you would use maybe somewhere along this fence. And remember, that house is blurred out, and we'll touch more on that in the members live. So here you are, you're sitting on this, and if you think about it, and if this is going to be an abduction, you're kind of sticking out like a sore thumb because you're kind of on the main street, right? And your field of view, your vantage point, right, of what's going on is not great because you kind of have these houses in your way. And I see a lot. I'm going to pause it here and get to chat in just a second. So it would make more sense because obviously you could have a car coming up the road and that would blow your whole cover because they could slow down and maybe see the driver, because they would be side by side if they pass by. And obviously they would be able to make out the car. So it would make more sense to then not only get off the main road, that is the one way in, one way out, but also get a better vantage point. And so what would be the best way to kind of be more inconspicuous is to then now pull around the corner like so. And now you've got a good vantage point of what's going on. Remember, the lights are going on while a car is sitting there. You can now obviously see, how, if the abduction, what's going on, where the lights are at. And also, now you're not on the main road. So, and then of course, this car clearly turned off its lights. And so now it's just kind of sitting there, and it's got a great vantage point to see what's going on over in the backyard. This was an abduction. And also, you can see the main road behind you, which I'm going to show here in just a second. So there, you can keep your eye on that. You can also make sure that nobody's coming down this road. Obviously, I'm sure if this was either inside or outside abduction, I'm sure they did their due diligence and they scouted this place. So they knew that this was kind of a one-way in, one-way out. So they knew the roads. They knew there was Kellen that went to a T, that's the dead end. And then there's the Stafford, which is the same thing. It curves around, goes to a dead end. So you know your roads, right? And now, as you're sitting there in the car, you can also, remember it's fall, so, all these trees wouldn't be full like this. You can also keep an eye, because you're in the driver's seat. You've got an eye at basically the main road coming in, and any cars that come by. Obviously, you got your lights off. And who knows if they're working maybe with some walkie-talkies or something like that. Obviously, I wouldn't be using cell phones. And so they've got a great vantage point from many angles of these roads. Obviously, you wouldn't want to park in front of the house because clearly if they did their due diligence, especially if it's an inside job, they know some of where these cameras are pointed. And that's why I've always kind of thought it was very interesting that they always keep trying to harp the field of view with this camera. I really think they did, in my opinion, if it's an inside job, they didn't think that this camera had that wide field of view, which would make sense of why they parked here and they didn't go much any more forward. And so while the abduction is going on, you're bringing out Sebastian, and then maybe you go between the two homes. And now the car would then, after doing that, one second, I'm going to read chat here in a second. I promise you, if you're wondering how long this took, I will show you guys. So, of course, as the car is sitting there, we have multiple lights and all. When I have Coffin Dapper on, I'm going to really put this all together in chronological order. I know I've kind of done it before, but I'm really going to kind of explain all the videos, all in chronological order, overlay them so they make sense. Like I said, a lot of it I've done, but I'm going to go much deeper into it because I really want to show you guys exactly where everything is at, where I believe it's at again. Then we have the car. We also have the lights moving. Likely at this point, this car is oh, that's weird. I'm just seeing something for the first time that Whoa. Well, let me write that down. I think I just saw something I haven't seen before. 21 minutes. Lights at bottom. Okay, sorry guys. Lights at bottom. Okay. All right. Okay, one more thing, and I'll stop and read chat here.
Sure.
So, of course, I believe the lights are happening while that car is likely sitting there, and then eventually it's going to turn on its lights. In my opinion, why else would it turn on its lights unless it's ready to probably get ready to move? And in my opinion, I think after, because in the order that I believe that everything's going on, this car doesn't turn on its lights until after subject 2 and 1 have moved. Now, this is one of the subjects watching, which I call the scout. But I think subject 1 or 2, either one of them, have now moved Sebastian over between the two homes. And now this car is ready to turn on and back up and pick him up off Kellen and then dip out. Now, I don't think this took very long, and I'll explain why here in just a second.
Obscured by movement area. 2 light sources, which we...
Okay, I'm going to play this clip, and we'll pause here. We've got so much more, but I promise you, just listen to what he says. Keep in mind, he has seen, like, much more of this footage, right? But I think he's focused more in on the lights, but I'm sure he's seen, like, the whole picture, right? Because we're only seeing the top right-hand corner of this, the screen here. But listen to what he says. I promise you, this is huge. Huge.
Most attention, showing signs of activity around Sebastian's home the night he disappeared. You see 2 light sources, which we've circled to help you follow. For point of reference, the security camera was pointed toward the back of Sebastian's home in a common area. In the video, you see subject 1 with a light source in the lower right-hand corner. Then you see subject 2 briefly appear and move toward the first before that light source is covered or obscured by bushes. Subject 1, a few seconds later, then moves.
And notice that, I didn't even realize that. Notice he says obscured by bushes. And, you know, when I did my overlay showing that it's likely going between what we call the common area and there's bushes and there's a ditch there. Like I said, he knew this all the way back then. And again, I say that because he literally spoke to the owner.
Out of frame. Then, subject 2 reappears and follows subject 1 off screen. It's a short time later, and it's very vague, but then you see one of the subjects moving quickly back through the common area. 2 seconds later.
Right there. Listen to what he says. And I'll explain why this is very huge, because when we see this video, this is the 4th video with the person now leaving. And listen to what he says.
Short time later, and it's very vague, but then you see one of the subjects moving quickly back through the common area. 2 seconds later, then moves out of frame. Then, subject 2 reappears and follows subject 1 off screen. It's a short time later.
It's a short time later. So think about that. He is seeing the whole, you know, he's got more context than we have, right? We've got snippets, right, that we can kind of stitch together, but he has seen the whole thing transpire. And according to him, within a few minutes, or a few moments, what does he say, a few moments? Short, ugh.
Out of frame. Then, subject 2 reappears and follows subject 1 off screen. It's a short time later.
It's a short time later. Now, let me know how you interpret that. To me, that's a few minutes, you know, not very long. And again, he's saying that as the final part that we know where, you know, one of the subjects is now running back to the home.
And it's very vague, but 1 off screen. It's a short time later, and it's 1 off screen. It's a short time later.
So to me, that tells you how long this whole thing, if everything in my theory is correct with the abduction, it didn't take long. They had it planned out. And of course, obviously, they're going to do it as quickly as possible because, you know, they don't want to be, you know, having a random car such as like an Uber show up, 15 minutes later or something like that, and, catch them. So I think this all took place within, 5 minutes or less, in my opinion. The Hatter's Madness. Ooh, I love that. Is that the Mad Hatter? I love DC. Thank you for all your hard work, Mob. Thank you so much. Paperman, thank you so much for your membership. Chris, you do excellent work. Thank you. Thank you so much, Angel. Paperman, well, that PI likes to blur pics for some reason. Yeah. Well, the one he did is really weird. And Jez says, appreciate your hard work. Thank you. God bless you for all the support. Teresa Stott becoming a member, supporting this channel. And we have June. Good to see you, sweetheart, with the $4.99. Thank you guys so much. God bless you guys. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think a short time later. To me, that means minutes, in my opinion. I don't think it would be more than that. But yeah, I agree. At what time was that? So again, we can only kind of speculate because, of course, the actual footage, the timestamp is broken at 3:11. But coincidentally, it is probably, even though it's broken, it is kind of happening around that time frame, which is kind of, is that another coincidence, or is there something behind it? So let's continue on, and I'm going to show you guys all the videos put together, right? So the first video is of subject 1, and this is how we got subject 1, is we see just one light moving, right? Now this video is 19 seconds. As you can see up here, it's a little bit small, so I just put 19 seconds. But as you can see, the video that I got, it's 19 seconds, right? So we have a 19 second, that's subject 1. Then we have floodlights still on. Well, yeah, they're just floodlights that are on all night. They're not motion censored or anything. Then we have video 2. Now, video 2 is the Nick Barris video, which shows subject 1 kind of finishing its movement and showing subject 2 now obviously approaching. That video is 1 minute and 31 seconds. And there's a reason why I'm showing you all this. So this is the order. So subject 1 has already kind of moved forward. I kind of lined up, from the original with the zoomed in version to kind of show you where they're kind of at. And we have subject 2 arriving.
And then it cuts diagonally to the house next door to us through their backyard.
Then we have video number 3. Video 3 is the one with the vehicle. Now that's a 34-second video. Now this is the only one where I don't know if they actually stop the video. So it's kind of like they play a part of it where the car turns on its lights. And then I'm not sure if they pause the video and then kind of zoom in with their camera. So even though this is 34 seconds, I don't know if all 34 seconds is the video playing, if that makes sense. Keep in mind we have subject 1 standing there as the vehicle has turned on its lights. Keep that in mind. But again, I don't know at that point if they had paused it. Then we have the final video, which is the video of one of the subjects running back to the home. That one is 21 seconds. It's the worst quality out of the 4 videos. You can barely see it, so I do apologize. Notice we don't see a car anymore. There's no car with the headlights on. So that tells me, in my opinion, the car has now backed up back onto Kellen and is either now just picking up whoever moved between the two homes. And now could be maybe Katie now running back to the home. Allegedly. So we put all those together. And again, here's just another shot of the 24 or 21 second video where, you know, and they go fast. I mean, they
First, before that light source is covered or obscured
So now we'll put that all those times together.
by bushes. Subject 1, a few seconds later, then moves out of frame. Then, subject 2 reappears and follows subject 1 off screen.
So if we add all those times together, that equals 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Now, if the car video is, you know, played for a bit, then paused, then we'd minus maybe like 20 to 30, somewhere to 20 to 30 seconds off, but still you're over 2 minutes, right?
Green. It's a short time later, and it's very vague, but
And here he is saying a short time later. So it kind of gives you, again, we don't have all the whole clips. We just have snippets, right? But this just kind of reinforces, in my opinion, that whatever took place, and obviously if it was an abduction, you know, obviously you're going to want to spend as least amount of time out there to be possibly seen, right? So you're going to be trying to be quick
then
about
you
it.
see one of the subjects moving quickly back through the common area, and that is it. I know, there's not much to see here. You certainly cannot identify anyone, but those close to the investigation tell me the mere fact that there is now evidence that someone is in the area around Sebastian's home is significant. This video shows suspicious activity in the immediate area the night Sebastian disappeared. Could one of these subjects have been Sebastian? Did he meet and leave with someone? Sebastian's father says his son...
And remember, just think about this interview, how long ago it was, and it's added on with the lights video. So just think about this. You know he had to have seen the vehicle, right? Nick Barris? Keep that in mind, right? He had to have seen the car, guaranteed. But he probably knew that he might get in trouble if he mentioned that. So he only mentions the lights.
Would not go with a stranger.
It's up in the air for me because I don't think he would get into a vehicle with somebody unless he knew them.
So what...
So here he is even mentioning showing a little interview talking about Sebastian getting in a vehicle. Like, you know, we can kind of put all the, you know, kind of clues together that, in my opinion, what he's kind of implying there.
exactly are we seeing here? I know investigators are doing what they can to try enhancing the video for any more clues. For now, this video is now part of the Sebastian Rogers missing person file, and I'm told it could become more significant depending on where the ongoing investigation leads. We'll be following that. Nick Barris, News Channel 5.
Now, of course, a little bit later on, he then questions Craddock, and they completely shut it down, you know, even though he still says, well, it could be, you know, potential evidence down the road, but they kind of start to act weird about that. To me, that means that they're probably, instead of looking outside, they're looking more inside, and they don't want to spook, you know, certain individuals. That's just my opinion, of course. Let me know what you think, but I think that's kind of why they've been kind of weird about the lights.
Thanks, Nick. Of course, the search for Sebastian can.
So now let's just say, again, I don't know 100%, but if we go off, remember, there's 2 cars at 3 a.m. Even SF, you know, even said that. So we know the one's the Uber, and we're going to look at the Uber here in a minute because we're going in chronological order. But clearly, this car has not been explained, and, you know, how many cars were out at that time, right? So if the Uber car has nothing to do with it, which I don't think so, then that really only leaves this car. So again, I think somewhere around 310, I'd almost say between 305 and 310 would probably be more accurate. But anyway, again, just approximate, kind of going off theory here, then the car would leave. Oops. Then we have, at 3:31, we have a car coming up. So unfortunately, I know some people are thinking, if this Uber driver had a dash cam, could they have caught anything? There's always that possibility. They may have seen something. I think by the time this guy arrived, they were probably out of there. But who knows? There could be a chance. He may have seen something. So, but we have figured out we're pretty sure we figured out the identity of the Uber driver, even though, in my opinion, it's not important because, don't believe the Uber driver had anything to do with it. I'm pretty sure an Uber driver, if they were involved, I'm pretty sure they went back up to show their license plate on a very nice camera, if they were part of the abduction, and show their face on camera, so. But just to kind of show you the time frame, so then we have the 3:33 Uber. And thanks to my wonderful community, they did some research and they pointed me to what kind of vehicle this is likely this vehicle is. And I would have to agree on what I've been told. So we have the timestamp 3:33. And, one person told me, look, do you see any exhaust? And I'm like, no, I don't see an exhaust. Well, what cars don't have exhaust? And that would be a Tesla. So, and there's a couple of different models. I don't think it's this model here, but there's another one I'll show here in a second. But I believe this is a Tesla Model 3, I think is what they're saying. And I'll show another one here, which I think is more accurate. I think it's more to this one here. And I'll zoom in here and show you guys. We don't see an exhaust. So this is likely a Tesla vehicle. Again, I can't say 100%. But I've had some people that are obviously car people. I'm not a big car person. So I'm so grateful for the community to reach out. Then I've had some people, claim, well, why is this guy in shorts? Oh, one more thing with the Tesla is Tesla. Of course, other cars, not just Tesla, but Tesla does have the flashlights, but the lights that illuminate the license plate. And you can see clearly there's a big brightness. And if you pictured the trunk opening up on this one, notice the lights would almost be shining at the camera. That's why I think it looks so much brighter, is because the trunk is now open and we're getting that. The light source is kind of pointing at us, so it's kind of illuminating. Excuse me. But I promise you guys, I'll share kind of a little bit more in the members live after this show, but we do have a potential lead. I'm just going to say it's a small lead because I don't ever want to blow things out of proportion or blow things up, because again, this case has been worked on for so long, but there is a lead and I've got to tip it in. I have to do a couple things later tonight, but I'll kind of talk a little bit more about it in the members live, but I will share it with you guys probably Monday or Tuesday. But we will talk a little bit about it. So before we move on, some people are trying to say, oh, well, SF just took something from Summer and played it. And I could tell you, there's no way that this homeowner would have footage from summertime, right? What we're seeing here is the driver in his shorts, because clearly he's just driving. Most of the time he's in his vehicle where it's probably warm. Even though, yeah, it's on a cold February morning, we can see the driver door open. And clearly I think he's just opening up the trunk. As I said before, he's just getting the vehicle ready for the homeowner to come out, bring out the luggage, and then he'll probably just get back in the car where it's warm. So again, this isn't taken. I believe this is taken that night, because this corroborates what the sources talked about. And I was actually speaking with him, and I think where the 5:30 got mixed up is the trash truck coming at 5 or 5:30. I think what happened is, we were talking about it, is I think what happened is because there was two cars, the suspicious car and the Uber car, and then they remembered that the trash truck was around 5 and 5:30, and I think the Uber truck just kind of accidentally got thrown in with that time frame with the trash truck by accident. But really, it just happened, a little bit earlier. Yeah. So again, and if you think about it, everything else, if you just minus off that time, everything else you said was right. It was Uber, a guy going to the airport. Clearly, he's got his trunk open, which to me means somebody's going to be putting in some big luggage. So again, that just shows how credible that source was. And just like I said, I think the 5 or 5:30 just kind of got mixed up with the garbage truck, right? Okay. So let me get to chat for a second here. Let me see what time it is. We start at 3:30. God, man, it goes fast. Zoo Blues gifted 1 Mob Crew membership. Thank you so much. And again, I know I said this every time, but if by chance you do get gifted a membership, if you could thank the person, that's so awesome. Nina, thank you so much for the dollar super chat. Michelle, thank you so much for the support. Jen also gifting a Mob Crew membership, and Kathy supporting the channel. God bless you guys. And we have Sandra with a $10 super chat. God bless you. Thank you so much for the support. Okay. And again, if you haven't already, please hit that like button. I promise you, I will share in the members live a little bit more about this potential lead. I got just a few more things to go over. So for those that don't know, I tweeted out to SF saying, and I literally showed this screenshot. I'm sure some of you've seen it. It got quite a lot of views on it. And I basically asked him, I'm like, hey, SF, you clearly had no issue showing the Uber car at 3:30, but why did you go out of your way to show the 3 a.m. vehicle and put a black box over it? Especially when, even without the black box, like I said earlier in the live, there's no way we'd be able to, see a license plate or the driver, So there's no way we'd be able to dox that person. And so it makes zero sense. And in my opinion, so I asked him, and I kind of put another reply, and I said, if you can, if it's not a big deal with the cars, like you said it is, then would you be willing to show another screenshot or a short clip of the car moving? And then, of course, he responded, no, because you're irresponsible, yada, yada, yada. I forget the exact tweet. So in my opinion, I think he was because of course, he did debunk me about the lights, because I said, well, how the hell could these be at, with the garbage truck, you could see the skybox at 5:30. And I'm like, well, how could the mysterious lights be at 5 o'clock, because of the skybox being much lighter? But it's all because this camera has the nighttime mode, so it makes it look more like daylight. And yeah, so I think he was so focused on debunking me, which he is right. You know, I admit it. I have no issues admitting when I'm wrong and get things, you know, I'm human. But I think he was so focused, and I don't think he really realized that he's showing this car, which again, if it is involved in the abduction, again, I'm just speculating that it is, then I think it was kind of a big oopsie. That's just my thoughts on it. I do agree. I'm excited for the Lore Lodge interview with him tomorrow. I wonder if he's going to show up. But yeah, really excited for that. I think that's at 7 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Supposedly SF is going to go on the Lore Lodge channel and he's going to debate. It's kind of funny that you've got SF possibly showing up. You don't have Katie or Chris Proudfoot showing up, you know. You know, it's a big channel. I forget how many subscribers, but obviously he's, you know, got a big following. But yet, you know. Anyway, so the garbage truck, again, you know, like I said, I'm just kind of showing the timeline of everything that we have. And the garbage truck never said anything about seeing any other vehicles or anything suspicious that we know of. So it just goes to show you how many cameras there are. And again, so what I'm showing with the cameras, this is a quarter, if not, maybe, maybe a quarter is probably about right. But like I said, just about every other house has one or more cameras on both Killen and Stafford to give you an idea of how many cameras. And yet this poor kid was not seen on a single one that we know of. So, I mean, that really just kind of shows you, like, this kid just didn't go wander off, right? Oh, thank you so much, Jamie. God bless you guys. So again, I know the garbage can is not a big deal, but I'm just kind of showing the timeline of everything. YouTuber, supporting the channel. Thank you so much. Christine M, becoming a member, supporting the channel. Thank you so much, Christine. And Texas Cowgirl Up 38. Love the name. Thank you so much for the support. God bless you. So Chris is great, or SF is a great liar. That video, Black Mark, is from law enforcement. You are doing a great job on your own. That's interesting. That was an interesting comment, amazingly. That's possible. Huh. If that was true, and I'm not saying you're lying, if that's true, then that just even further corroborates how big this vehicle is. Like I said in my Friday show, I just could not emphasize how big this vehicle is, because this is the vehicle that we've been trying to figure out in the... Oh, let me turn this down just in case something's playing. Yeah, let me play this for a second. And I've got one more thing and then we'll finish up here. So what I did, and I showed this on Friday, just to show that this is real and that because believe me, like I said, if he put out fake stuff, I'm going to, I would call him out on it. Here's the car, And I'm using the video that you just saw from the garbage truck, and I'm overlaying it in. So if he had tampered with the background or anything, it would have been obvious right away. And then I already went over the timestamp. I'm not going to go over that. But again, I showed how if he tampered with the timestamp, it'd be blatantly obvious. And so, like I said, this car is real. This is not the Uber car. You can tell that the car is clearly going to be going past this house. And I had somebody reach out to me this morning and tell me they believe that they may know the possible make and model of this car. And so I am looking into that. I will go into that a little bit more in the members live. I don't want to show my cards yet, just in case, because I want to turn it over to the FBI and TBI first. And then we'll talk about it more on Monday, Tuesday. But like I said, I took a bunch of different vehicles. I know a lot of people want to think it's like the Xfinity. Again, this is not an SUV. We've been told that it was some kind of sedan, dark color, possibly silver. And here we go. And this just further reinforces what the sources had said many months ago. Unknown car at 3 a.m., possibly a sedan, darker, silver colored. And here it is, now being corroborated with actual evidence. And then I talked about, and here's what I'll end on. And remember, I was so stuck on this, and then finally, Friday is when I finally had my eyes opened as to
Diagonally to the house next door.
one of the biggest issues with the lights. Okay, just give me a second. I promise you, if you missed Friday's live, I promise you this will... Okay, right here. All right, so if you missed Friday's live, I promise you this is very good. Okay, so as you guys know, I've been working on this damn vehicle for a long time. And I know not just me, other channels, my community, we tried to figure out, what this was. Was it, fog from the car turning on, like exhaust? Is this part of the light? And then the tail light, does that mean it's a vertical tail light? We looked at so many different angles, and then I finally came across something that completely opened up my eyes, and I would almost bet my channel on it if we were to ever see this footage without it being a third or fourth or fifth generation where we can actually see the vehicle. I promise you it's not going to be how you think it is, and I'll explain why. So this is one of the issues. And this also comes with, like, I don't know, pareidolia is kind of, that's kind of pareidolia, right? So here we have the truck, right? We know that's in the driveway, right? And what are we seeing? We're seeing a side view of this truck, right? So we know that there's a vehicle here. And because we see this truck here, I think it tricks our mind that we're going to see that this vehicle is also going to be at a side view, right? But that is not the case. And the other thing is, and it's bugged the ever-living hell out of me, is how come we cannot see the headlights, right? You would think the brightest thing on this vehicle would be the headlights, and it would be blatantly obvious, right? We would think we would see something like this with the taillight coming on and then the street kind of being illuminated. But that's not what we get. We get no headlight. And it has bugged me. And I think I have figured it out. It only took 6 months. And it all has to do with perspective. I promise you, this will blow your mind. So again, you would think we should be seeing this big ball of light sitting somewhere like right here, where everything else kind of lines up, kind of illuminates the street. It's kind of dark, so it's not going to see it as well because the camera is a little bit further away, and it's like a third, fourth generation video, so, we're missing a lot of context. But it is not a side view of the vehicle. And that's where we've gotten it wrong. So, and I'm going to do more research, but here is a great example of what is going on. So we have a camera that's sitting angled down. It has a driveway that is also angled, right? But then the street, so we have a kind of a V going on, right? And then we have the camera. So, we kind of have the camera here. We got our driveway here. And then we have the road here, right? So we got this V shape going on, right? Look at this car, how it's positioned. This is more of how the car. Now imagine if this car turned on its lights, right? We wouldn't see the headlights, right? We wouldn't have this big ball of light. We would only see it illuminating, and then we would kind of see the tail light, right? And I'll show this from a different perspective. So if you were, I think what tricks us is we got this view of the side view of the truck, and that is causing us to, like I said again, we're going to think we're going to see a side view of the same thing of the vehicle, but that is not the case, because the driveway is at an angle, and then when we look at the road, we've got this V-shape thing going on, right? So I found a camera that has a similar situation. Obviously, this car's parked in a different way. If it was parked sideways, we kind of have the same effect. But notice, this is kind of a similar situation from this camera here on the right. And notice the car, it's not a side view. And that is what's going on. And so we're really getting, that is what I guarantee. I would bet the farm on it. If we were ever to get the full context of this video, or we could see the car, I guarantee it'd be something like this, where we're seeing it at a kind of a top-down view, and it's at an angle, and so we wouldn't really see the headlights because it would be blocked, and we would get kind of the taillights, if that makes sense. And believe me, I have studied that damn thing. I've got 100, 200 hours just staring at this thing. I've had dreams about it. It's in my nightmares. Everything in between. And yeah. So, like I said, I encourage everybody to do their own research. I'm just showing you what conclusions I've come to from all the research, but I think that's what's going on. And we're just kind of getting a, kind of slightly a pareidolia effect, and some other things. Angela, thank you so much. God bless you. Eve loves God. Love that name. Thank you so much for the $4.99. Crystal, thank you so much for becoming a member. If anybody by chance sent a PayPal or Venmo, let me just see, because I'd hate to. Edith, thank you so much for the PayPal. I hate it because PayPal, Like, you guys send me messages and it's so sweet, but I can't respond to them. But with Venmo, I can easily just respond back like saying thank you, because sometimes I don't always get them right away because of where I'm at. I got bad service. So anyway, but thank you so much. And if by chance I did miss somebody's, all right, we'll go 5-10 more minutes. Even though we didn't hit the goal, I don't care about the goals. If you have some questions, I'll try to get a few questions in before we go. So if you have a question for me, if you want to put it in the chat, if you put it up there before, if you could put it again so I could go over it all. Trying to find something to kind of play while I read chat. Actually, let me play where we're showing the cars. Sorry. There we go. Okay. Oh my gosh. Hush Pup gifted 20 Mob Crew memberships. Holy Hannah. Thank you so much, Hush Pup. I love that name. I love Hush Puppies. I don't know. I love that word. But what a great name. And what an amazing gift. That is so awesome. Thank you so much, Hush. If you can, please thank Hush. Or if anybody, if you got gifted, if you could thank Hush. That is so awesome. Because I am going to do a members live right after this. Oh my gosh, Julie, if you could. Because again, I've said this so many times. If I saw footage and it was Seth in a vehicle and he was part of the abduction, I would turn him in a heartbeat. I've said this so many times. I could care less who's behind the abduction, but everything, in my opinion, points to certain individuals other than Seth. Seth's the only one, in my opinion, that has acted how, in my experiences working with families, have reacted. So, but again, I could care less who's behind it. I just want those responsible to pay the price at the fullest extent, especially depending on what happened. I am praying that there's some kind of happy ending and that this poor kid's alive. But again, I will study these videos until I go blind. And I do. I have a possible lead. But if anybody can get footage for me, I'll be happy to look at it unbiasedly. Because, again, footage is unbiased, right? Allison says, was Sebastian wearing Chris' old work boots to the car, hence no scent trail? That's a great question. Thank you, Allison. I think they would still be able to yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I don't know. I think somebody that's more of a canine handler would probably better answer that question, but I'd say that's a good question. In my opinion, convenient how Sebastian was wearing all black. I know, right? All black and the flashlight. And the whole ninja comment. Oh, thank you so much, Buckeye. Really, it's you guys are the ones that really just push me. I appreciate that. I may have a lead. It's a small lead, and it's not just coming from just me. It's coming from my community. So, really, it'll be a community effort. Car is at a 45-degree facing away from the... Oh, yeah. That's a... Thank you, Joseph Rapp. Yeah. Oh, that's okay, Miss Sarah. Yeah, the Cash App's been acting really weird. No worries, Miss Sarah. Please, just no worries about that. Just the thought of that, is enough for me. God bless you, sweetheart. Oh, thank you so much, Leslie. God bless.
was like hollering his name, and I picked up the phone and I called my husband, and I said,
Right, Angela. Right.
"What do you mean?" I said, "He's not at his open house."
I would love to see it when it comes back down, right? Does it have, say, a license plate on it? You know? Because I know you don't need one in the front, but does it have one on the back?
Three-wayed. He three-wayed law enforcement and was telling them.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. I'm trying to look for some questions. Most of it's just love, and again, you guys are amazing.
Grateful for everything they have done.
They're amazing, but they still haven't brought my baby back.
But yeah, if anybody has the footage, of course. I mean, if you've seen what I've done in the past, I just break it down, give you my thoughts, what my experiences are. Again, I don't claim to be some like expert analysis, but I've had experience working with videos for such a long time that I would say I have some credentials working with videos and different programs, so I think it's lighting the road, but because the road is not centered, so the road, if you look at it, and we'll probably leave off with this question so then I can get to my members live. If you look at the road, and I think this is why it's kind of funny looking, is the road almost itself kind of does this a little bit. It's not flat. And I think that's due to water. So when it rains, the water will go to either one or the other side. Does that make sense? So it's not level. It's a little bit flat. So it's got a little bit of a elevation in the middle, right? So that way when it rains, the rain will go into the gutters, right? So I think since it's sitting on this side, we're only getting, some of the road being illuminated, and that's probably also due to the different angles of how the car's sitting, right? But that's a great comment. I've looked at that, Kathy, and I will keep that in mind. Thank you, guys. Again, and Hush Pup, God bless you. That is so amazing. So I'm going to go live, members live. Give me 5-10 minutes just as the live ends, and then we'll probably go maybe half hour to hour. I usually don't try to do long lives, that way people can rewatch. But the love and support is truly amazing. Thank you so much, Amanda. And share love. Thank you so much. God bless you guys for all the support. Okay, guys. And of course, shout out to my wonderful mods, Jennifer, Copper, Dee, Jocelyn, Sensei. Such amazing mods. Oh, thank you, Leslie. Yeah, ask Jen if she gets us jobs. That'd be great. All right, guys. God bless you guys. I'm going to end it. I'm going to do an outro because I got to set up for the members live. So, like I said, probably 5-10 minutes. And the members live, you should get a notification if you're a member. Or just kind of look out for it. All right, guys. For those that I won't be there for the members, I may do a live Monday. I'm not sure because there's Lord Lodge is interviewing SF, and I think it's around 7, usually the time that I go live. But I want to watch that because I'm very invested in that. So either I'll do like a reaction after, or maybe I'll just do it live Tuesday. We'll have to see. So I'll let you guys know.